The seagulls follow trawler. It's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you very much.
Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Here we go, the Monday Club, we're back. It was a bit of a quiet weekend on the Boyce'S bus weekend. Not for the driver, may I add, but it was a quiet weekend on the bus after a fantastic double down show, I should say, on Friday. That's my posh accent coming out there. Yes, so Phil McGinley was our guest on Friday, and after that, we didn't rev up the bus one more time. I was meant to do some post-match piss yesterday, but Jonathan, to be honest with you, it'd have been more like a bus crash if I decided to go on air. So we left that one out. But it was a day to celebrate and enjoy the occasion because Celtic actually pulled further away in the title race, albeit the gap is only 3 points. It's still 2 more than what it was before any fixture, before a ball was kicked on Sunday. So that was very positive. We're going to reflect on that. We're going to look at the ins and outs of that fixture, cult heroes, returning players, and we look ahead to European exertions on Thursday. I know you were at the game last Thursday, Jonathan, are desperate to tell us all about it.
Well, I can remember. I thought I was going to watch Bodo Glimt. I ended up that drunk. I think I did the Celtic Park Stadium tour to find my seat, but never mind. Like
your older brother, Jonathan. Nothing wrong with that sometimes. Obviously, we will say a big thank you to our sponsors, fanboyfootball.com. As ever, they are sponsors. We're going to get big news in the next sort of 7 days about availability of merch on their site, which we're delighted they are supporting the channel with that. Big thanks to anyone. I don't know if you noticed, Jonathan, last Thursday, people were donating in the comments.
Wow.
Nice to be surprised, to be honest with you, but not what the bus is all about. I don't want anyone to feel obligated or anything like that, but there are options to do that if you so wish. It just literally, Jonathan's just proved to you, it's only going to go on beer with us anyway, so it's always well spent. Jonathan, how are you, mate? It is good to have you back on the Monday Club, and you can help me along for my first show in 3 days.
Yeah, no, I'm good. After the disaster that was Thursday, I have a smile back on my face after watching what happened on Sunday. Normal service has resumed, and you know what? Sometimes it feels all right when you lose in the Conference League, when you go and extend your lead in the Scottish Premiership. And remember, the winners of the Scottish Premiership are most likely going straight into the Champions League next year, and that's really what it's all about, isn't it?
Absolutely love it, Jonathan. I'd just like to say a big shout out to all my Rangers supporting friends who so kindly joined the Boyce's bus on Thursday with big smug grins. And I want to say a big thank you to you, and hopefully they can all join us again tonight, because I am sure they're still just as smug and smart, and want to slag off my hair, for example, like that tonight. It's what they did on Thursday. Oh, or will they? Anyway, Jonathan, it was an exciting day yesterday. It was exciting because it starts with a bang. It starts with a familiar story in 2022, and that is them dropping points. Now, we will talk about that later. However, not only did that put a spring in our step, we then decide to make life a wee bit difficult for ourselves, or maybe just give some hope to the other side, Jonathan. It's the hope that kills you, they say. It nearly killed me because, it was one of those games you thought, surely not. I bigged up the fact I thought it was the perfect tonic to a poor European result. Was going to be new manager, may as well be managerless Dundee with that idiot Mark McGee in charge. I know he played for Celtic, but I don't like him. And he was in the stands as well. So I just thought, that's the perfect tonic for us. We eventually ended up making pretty hard work of it. But a maverick and potentially a cult hero, we're going to discuss that, has been found. Talk us through your emotions yesterday, Jonathan. Do you feel it was another significant day in the destination of the SPFL title? Or, to be completely honest, and a different side to it, was it just another day at the office yesterday where we pick up points and they drop them on the road?
I feel it's probably beginning to become a bit of a theme this season, particularly since the break. Our rivals are not travelling well. They've not won a game yet on the road domestically since they've came back in the league anyway. And, it's one of those ones. I think we definitely made hard work of it in our game. I think once we'd seen the result at Tannadice earlier on, we were thinking this could be tasty. This could be another, 5 or 6. The Celtic could be past them with all the motivation they were given, particularly after such a poor showing on the Thursday night, to really bounce back and make a statement. They didn't half put us through the ringer. I've got to say, I was blinking on with watching it again through my eyes. I feel like that's a blinking common theme as well. This second half of the season is that Celtic are making things a lot more difficult sometimes than they really need to be. But at the end of the day, Celtic found a way to win, and when it got to the latter stages at Tannadice, our rivals didn't. And I feel that's kind of the most important part, of it at this point in the season. Do I think it'll be significant? I think the amount of times this is happening bodes very well for us, and I think it will be very significant come the end of the season. We'll look back on these weeks as being season defining.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, I'm going to bring up Connor's comment here. Connor's obviously been a guest on both the Double Doon show, and I think he did some post-match push with you, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, aye.
Connor's saying, weirdly, you always felt we'd score yesterday. Now, the reason I brought that point up is because I'm glad someone else has said it. Now, at no point was I feeling complacent yesterday, Jonathan, by any stretch, but genuinely when the goal went in, whilst, yes, there was a bit of bouncing around, there was maybe a wee bit of a spillage out the pint that was in my left hand, but I think, realistically, I felt it was a goal I expected to come. I don't know why. I just thought it was coming. I'm glad that Connor's realised that as well. It's very dangerous when you start getting complacent, you know what I mean? Because that sets you up for a bigger disappointment if it doesn't happen. But yesterday, I just feel it's a wee bit of an assuredness I've now got with this team that they're going to play right to the death. They're going to give it their all. They're going to keep going. They're going to keep doing the principles that Ange's educating them with and training every single day. And I just thought yesterday there's a mentality about Celtic, Jonathan. Title winning, people might say, don't get carried away. Well, do you know what? I'm fucking sick of people saying stuff like that, because I'm here. If I'm a football supporter, right? I am allowed to get carried away. It's what we're meant to. It's the players and all that can't get carried away. You know what I mean? We're here to just talk up everything that's happening. So I think a title win mentality was seen. I guess 21 points from 21 so far in 2022. The character's been proven now, and that's now sort of marrying up with the earlier in this calendar year, the dazzling displays. We're now seeing the character side of this, Jonathan, now. We've seen it at Pataudry when it went to 2-2. We're now seeing it yesterday from 2-2 to 3-2. Are they showing that mental edge now, Jonathan? I think the stat is, I think David was saying 52 points last 54. I thought it was 56 points from the last 60. Not to be pernickety, but I think it is. If that is right, 56, or even if it is 52 from the last 54, either way you look at it, it's title winning form. And I think now it's not just about blowing teams away. It's about finding the way to get the job done, being able to get it over the line. And Celtic are now encouraging me with showing both sides, to what it takes to win a title. Yes, be the best team. Blow teams away by all means if you can with the silky football and the electric displays. Now, though, there just seems to be playing with that wee bit of belief that even when things don't go their way, they can counter it and they can come back and they can dig in, they can get the sleeves rolled up. And it makes for a perfect recipe for a team that's in a title battle between now and May.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. And I think, Celtic have proven that they now know how to win matches in completely different ways depending on how the game is going. I think, if you were to look at the first half of this season, you would probably turn around and say Celtic were about the first 30 minutes sort of team. It was pretty much do or die in that first half an hour, all out, get yourselves in front, and then let's hope we can keep ourselves in that position. Whereas now you can just tell they've got that bit more fitness, they've got that more time with Ange, they've got that ability now where you do have a lot of confidence in them to go right to the final minute and still be able to pick up the wins where, earlier in the season, if we were in a game like this, we'd have probably been looking at somebody like Kyogo to probably bail us out. And if he wasn't on form, we'd probably be resigned to the fact that we were dropping points. Whereas, now there is so many options as we keep going back to that we can now turn to dig them out of a hole. It's a very good, luxurious position to be in the fact that we've got so many match winners that we can turn to when the chips are down. And there is a mentality there. And that always breeds confidence. The more late goals you get in games, the more the players become assured that this is going to happen time after time again. They've been in these positions, as you rightly say, with, Aberdeen, with a couple of other ones of late, Ross County earlier in the season. So it's one of those things where I think it's just bred confidence for the players, and they now have this belief that they can go to the final minute and they can still dig out a result. And you know what? I don't even think Celtic really particularly panicked, when it went back to 2 each going forward at all. I think they stuck to their guns. They continued to try and play the way that Ange wanted them to play. They showed a lot of patience, particularly when the crowd were getting a bit edgy towards the end. They never let that affect them. They never tried to do anything rash. And they got their just rewards once again. And for me, as I keep going back to it, it's all boding well. There's not, a lot of time left yet in this season now, and Celtic clocking up the wins. It's now 3 points. The questions are now being firmly asked at our rivals, because if it gets much more, it could be getting to a point where you'll be calling it soon.
Oh, calling it soon. I like it, Jonathan. I like it. I mean, the thing is, obviously, with the weekend coming up as well, and obviously we're going to look at the midweek fixture as well in Europe. But if we do quickly allow ourselves to look one fixture further ahead than that, we play, I think, the early kickoff 12 o'clock on
we
the
do.
Sunday.
We play Hibs at Easter Road, I believe, next Sunday.
12 o'clock, and you're beginning to think, so that could, if we're to win and show this resilience, this dig, as well as our swashbuckling football, we could be 6 points clear, right? Before they play their match. And that is an incredible turnaround from where we were at before. The players, I think you're absolutely right. I think my lack of panic yesterday is something that's not going to be, in isolation with just me and Connor McCann. I think that's going to be something that is clearly being reciprocated between other fans. And then you've got to imagine if the fans are feeling maybe less edgy in these sort of scenarios, then that's probably because the players are feeling less edgy in these sort of scenarios. Yeah. And that all points to an inner belief that is now with the club that I think Celtic, a lot of the players potentially would be a wee bit surprised at how quick the turnarounds happened. Not their form necessarily. I don't think our form is, I don't think the players will be surprised that they're winning football matches. No. But I think now to have got their noses in front, having been 6 points behind before the restart, they'll now be sitting thinking, right, do you know what way? You just get a vibe, Jonathan, and you start thinking, wow, things are going our way as well in matches we're not involved in. What we can dictate and what we can control, we're doing one hell of a job in as well. There's got to be a positivity now amongst the support that not only were we always in the title race, Jonathan, but I think the title is there to be won. All Celtic now have to do is take care of their own business. It's irrelevant what Rangers do. Yes, they're going to throw the dice or roll the dice at, with the two fixtures that are left, and they're going to hide behind that excuse right now that those two fixtures can swing it. But if they keep dropping points and we keep winning points at the rate we are, 56 from our last 60, there's no reason why there'll be much optimism from them. I think for me, Celtic right now is in the driving seat. I think they've put their foot down since the restart. I think it's a trait previous Celtic sides have shown as well. Long may it continue, because I think right now the league title's destiny is very much in our hands.
No, it definitely is. Even with the two derbies still to be played, if the form book continues to go the way it's going for both clubs, Rangers could actually potentially win both of them, and they could still lose the league the way they're playing if those results were to continue and Celtic's results were to continue. So I think there'll be a lot more football to be played there to actually work out exactly where we're going to go. A lot more questions to be posed at them. If Celtic were to get themselves into that position where they were able to put the 6-point lead in place, even if it's only for a few hours, 6 points sounds quite a big margin at this point in the season to be turning around. Granted, they might pull it back to 3, but that question is then getting posed to them. It's another massive few games coming up in the league for Celtic, not just Hibs away, which can be a tricky venue to go to, but I also believe there's Livingston away coming up very shortly as well, which will be an interesting one. I do have a hunch that I think if Celtic were to win at Livingston, then they will go on to win the title. That's my prediction. If Celtic are to get maximum points from Hibs and Livy, they'll go on to win the league, regardless of what happens with our rivals. I just think it's that important for them. Nice to see Rangers are focusing on Europe. They can continue to improve our coefficient for us getting in the Champions League next year. That'd be good for all of us. But I think it's all pointing towards being a really exciting point of the season for Celtic. There's nothing to be afraid of. I think with the players touching upon that, I think maybe they had their backs up a wee bit at the fact. I think a lot in the media were very quick to write them off earlier in the season. I remember Ange Postecoglou having to field questions about title races being over back in October after a pretty poor start to the season. And I think they did have a point to prove. And you can tell the players fully believe that this is going to be their season now. You only have to look at Giakoumakis' interview after the game, where he says Celtic are the better team in Scotland now, and we are going to try and take this title. And I think we are the best team in Scotland. It's all very positive vibes you're getting from the dressing room, and it feeds on to the supporters. And I think, from where we've came just a few months ago, because even before Christmas, we were probably thinking if we can run them close, it's going to be 50-50. Whereas now we've got our eyes firmly on the prize, and we're thinking we could end up wrapping this up potentially sooner. But, for me, I don't think it'll go quite as early as that. I think Rangers will probably string together some results. I don't think they'll completely collapse like they have in previous seasons. But there's absolutely no doubt about it. Celtic have produced an absolute blinder since Christmas. And, there's no two ways. If Celtic continue playing the way they're playing, they will end the season as league champions.
That's it, mate. It's straightforward as that now. Celtic have, I say straightforward. I mean, in terms of factually, it's straightforward. If Celtic take care of their business, they will win the league championship. And I think no matter what frustrations we've got with displays like Thursday in Europe and, going out what will be 3 European competitions, if we're not to qualify this Thursday, and we'll talk about that a bit. But I think the league was always the priority this year. Now, for me, Europe should be then next. But anyway, this year, because of the guaranteed riches that came with it, or the expected guaranteed riches, I know that if the Champions League winner doesn't finish in a qualification spot in their league, then we could miss out on guaranteed Champions League spot. But it seems a wee bit unlikely. I think it's always, or has been for years and years now in a row, that the team that's won the Champions League had also finished in a qualification spot. I think, was it Chelsea were the last team not to? And they ended up taking Spurs' spot or something like that. Anyway, I just think at the start of this season, we would all have just accepted that maybe a shitty European campaign if it meant we were to wrestle back our title. And right now, Celtic's going through the gears right now. And I think we have to be honest. I mean, the only team that can stop us winning the league, I know a lot of people might say only Celtic can stop Celtic winning the league. I kind of like that. But if we don't win the league, someone else has got to, and it can only be them, right? But they've not won an away game domestically, in the league, this year yet. It's nearly March, and I know that's only a handful of fixtures or whatever, but the longer that record goes on, the more the doubt grows. It doesn't get nipped in the bud. Like I kept saying, on Thursday, I did post-match push, and I was saying, the thing is that I didn't want to happen was the negativity that comes with such a disappointing result for it to fester, because I know how easy it can happen. And I think we have to be grateful that the next fixture we had was Dundee at home, that had only just appointed a new manager and a second bottom in the league. I think that favoured us to nip that in the bud of it festering. But that works two ways. I mean, you're consistently going away from home and dropping points. And it's a movie we've all seen before. And let's make no mistake, it is, whether they like it or not.
Yeah.
And a lot, Jonathan, of the cast are the same as who we've seen before. We've seen Tavernier's big scared eyes. You know what I mean? In away games.
And he looked very similar against Dundee United as well. From what I caught of the game, he looked like he was having a howler. So, yeah, it's definitely.
When referees are getting discussed left, right and centre, Jonathan, because the one good thing I think about Celtic fans is, yes, whilst we've got an agenda against referees because we've got suspicions about the team they support and their backgrounds and generally a catalogue of decisions that have went against us, we use as a body of evidence to support such sort of conspiracy, if you like. We also complain about them when we're winning. That's the thing. That is the beauty of it, that we're complaining about refereeing decisions throughout the season, even when we're winning football matches, not just when we're losing them. The noise that you're now hearing about referees and Bobby Madden just now and things always coincides with what will be a negative result over there. We've seen this again. It's another chapter, if you like, in the movie that we've seen a million times as well. There's nothing new with that aspect. The question I've asked is, can they hang? It is a question that's important. And I know a lot of fans don't talk about them. It's all about Celtic, and I get that. But for me, it's competition. I mean, you've got another team, and why not have a look at them? Because, trust me, when Rangers drop points, you only need one look at social media. Celtic fans are paying attention to it. So we're allowed to talk about it on a podcast as well. And I just think for me, you look at what's going on since the turn of the year, and you think, can they hang indeed? I thought they were in a relatively comfortable position. And to me, it looks like they're choking right now. Yeah, it was a brilliant result on Thursday, but I almost think they play without any fear or pressure in Europe.
Again, that's shadows of previous seasons. So Russell, they were always capable of these excellent European results. It's never been a question for me that Rangers over the last 3 or 4 years have been more than capable of producing big results in Europe when they aren't expected to. They like being the underdogs. I'm sure they've said this before. The likes of Ryan Kent and Tavernier both came out and said they like not having the pressure on them, not having that expectancy on them to win, which, if you're a Rangers fan, you'd probably find that quite alarming. I would wager. So it's certainly an interesting one. Just to touch back on that, obviously their form was at 3 points from 4 on their travels now since the turn of the year. 3 draws and a defeat at Celtic Park, I believe. So that's hardly exactly title-winning form for your 4 away games. When you're looking at it, no, it's pitiful. But as I say, from a Celtic point of view, it doesn't look as if we're showing any signs of letting up whatsoever. Granted, maybe a wee bit of a wobble at points against Dundee. There was a little bit of defensive naivety, I felt, particularly for the first goal in that game, and then I think even the second one, I think Starfelt's ended up just making a rash tackle, and in fairness, it's pretty good. And I think Celtic have shown a little bit of vulnerability at the back with things like that. But I've always kind of feel Celtic, they have the answers, even when some of the team probably aren't playing close to their best. Other players step up a man to the call and make sure that the team finds a way to win. There just seems to be that collective togetherness at Celtic where, if things aren't going well and the chips are down, the players galvanise themselves, they find answers. And I always think that when it comes to mentality, I don't think you can fault Celtic whatsoever on that. I think those questions firmly belong at our rivals' door. I don't think anyone can question Celtic's mentality whatsoever. In terms of ability, we're going to find out over the next couple of months whether or not Rangers can continue to keep the pace with us. But for me, I think it will probably go quite close to the wire. I don't think Rangers will completely fall off. I think another fair point as well is Celtic are going to have potentially the added benefit, by the law of averages, it looks like they'll probably go out of Europe on Thursday. I mean, certainly if you're a betting man, you wouldn't be betting on Celtic to turn that around. I wouldn't imagine. The odds will be quite high. And that then means Celtic are no longer playing midweek. They now have a week to prepare for every game. Whereas, Rangers may well get through against Dortmund. They're in a very good position to do just that. And again, that plays a factor. Make no mistake about it. If they're able to go Sunday, Thursday for another, few weeks, then that could make a massive impact on where this title ends up for them. Because again, another thing I keep touching back on is I think Celtic have far better strength and depth to be able to go and play 2-3 games a week, whatever it may be, than our rivals. But if we're in a position where we're only playing at the weekends and we can then have a full week to rest our players with the likes of Kyogo still to come back, Celtic are only going to get stronger. And for me, that all points towards a Celtic title victory come May.
No, that makes sense, Jonathan. I totally agree with what you're saying. Philip DeMarco's say, where is Daniel Mick? It's him and Boyce. I don't even remember having a boxing debate with Daniel Mick. Is that who I was arguing with on Twitter?
Oh, I don't know. You were probably picking your fights with a few people. You were getting properly into it by the sounds of it.
He was. I didn't realise it was Daniel Mick. He's a regular viewer. I was getting bellers. Oh no, that's a bit funny. Fuck knows.
You've lost a passenger. He's not at the bus stop waiting to get picked up today.
might have lost a passenger. I didn't realise it was Daniel Mick. He must be that Boyce is an arsehole. I used to like him. Some you win, some you won't. Anyway, right, let's talk about Big Giakoumakis. Jonathan, he is a firm favourite on the Boyce bus. We stood by him when others didn't. We heard he was written off in some quarters, Jonathan. But hey, it pays to be ITK. So, Giakoumakis has all the hallmarks and traits of becoming what I would describe as a cult hero, Jonathan. He's got a maverick style about him. He brings, real work rate, real effort. He brings chaos as well. Yesterday wasn't just a hat-trick from a 7-0 win at home to Dundee when it's all a wee bit easy for us. Yesterday was a crucial contribution, one that is massive in the title race. As our lead went stretched from 1 point to 3 points, which can't be emphasised enough how big a difference that gives us. And Giakoumakis, front, left and centre, you could say. It was a perfect hat-trick, Jonathan. I love the celebration, the ripping the jersey off and swinging it about. Celtic have someone the fans are, well, most of them that have half a brain cell, have taken a real shine to Jonathan. And no wonder, because there's something that's undeniably likeable about Gorgeous George. And not just the goals. I mean, the goals yesterday was brilliant because that was a real, key factor. Obviously, it was the most instrumental factor in winning the game. But all these other traits, I just think there sounds very likeable at Giakoumakis. And to me as well, the debate with him or Maeda has kind of been put to bed because you watched them work together yesterday. Maeda getting a wee assist. I don't know if he was given the assist for the second goal, but he's cutting from the left to find Giakoumakis. And it's a lovely ball that he puts across the goal. I mean, they're showing they can work in tandem. It's not always a competition, to have a slight at one by praising the other. But Giakoumakis for me is now very much part of the identity of what we're getting from Celtic right now. And I think he's, someone that these away games that we've maybe notoriously struggle at, such as the Tony Macaroni, he's going to be one of the first names in the team sheet in this sort of fixture now, probably including the likes of Easter Road this Sunday coming, because we've not got a great record notoriously there either. What have you made of Giakoumakis' contribution, Jonathan, particularly obviously in 2022?
Yeah, I think he's, as I say, he's been a breath of fresh air. Really, he's got that sort of work rate, effort about him. He's got that mentality that you can just tell he just understands the club very early on here. I think you can just see he realises how important it is to be winning every week. It almost feels a bit like he may have talked to Samaras or something. There's a bit of reminders there for me with Samaras in some ways. But I think with Giakoumakis, what you're getting is a guy who is looking like a proper poacher. But there's a lot more to him than just that. I mean, even those goals, were extremely good in that game. He's a handful for defenders. Yep. Celtic love putting these balls into the box. And, before they had him really available, they'd never really had that sort of option to really be flying those balls in. You were just floating them in and they were going over Kyogo's head, and Kyogo's like, what am I to do with this? Whereas he's the kind of guy who is going to get up there and mix it about with them. To say he's just a physical striker, though, is doing him a disservice. He can bring a lot more to the game than that. He does look like he's got that sort of ethic that he is going to go and hound players as well when he's not on the ball. And he just looks an absolutely outstanding player from what we've seen so far. And I believe we're beginning to see him at his best. I think every goal he's scored as well has been his first touch, I'm pretty sure. I read somewhere. Certainly was for his hat-trick. They were all one-touch goals.
Instinctive, Jonathan. True traits of a goal scorer. I think that's the thing. Giakoumakis has brought loads of different dimensions to how Celtic can approach matches as well this season. Now, whilst there is this narrative Celtic only play one way, I don't know how necessarily true that is. I think what he means is when Ange says we're not going to change our approach, I think he just means we're going to have a goal. We're going to be positive on the ball. We're not going to play hastily. But I think Giakoumakis undoubtedly makes decisions for other players to make, such as putting in an early cross, looking for someone to come short. Do you know what I mean? I think the other thing that Giakoumakis has brought has been, a decent goal record so far, let's be honest, for someone that was coming back to fitness from a couple of serious layoffs at a brand new club in a new country. But he came with a bit of pedigree. We've said it a million times. Was it 26 goals in the Eredivisie last season? With Arden Newman in his Adam's Apple. But he's got... I mean, I think Giakoumakis came with a goal-scoring record last year that really it would have been folly for us to judge him on a penalty miss. And I think people were a bit guilty of that in amongst maybe, a couple of, very unfit displays, shall we say. He wasn't up to the races. He says judge him now. He's fit, he's healthy, and that's what's happening. But Giakoumakis likes talking to the media. Now, I want to know your take on his comments. He thinks Celtic will win the championship. You mentioned the fact Rangers will drop points again. Are you opposed to this, Jonathan? Do you think... I mean, for me, everyone's cut for the same boring, honestly, record. Everyone's scared to say anything. The guy's giving his opinion. He thinks the team that he plays for is going to win the league. And folk are getting all in their ants in a patch. Oh, that'll get pinned on a dressing room wall. Well, if it does, that just shows an even weaker mentality from the other side, And I think Celtic fans getting on his back for it. I like a character, Jonathan. I'm bored of the same cliche answers. I want the fact that our striker who just scored a hat-trick also happens to think Celtic will win the league this year. In fact, not one of them shouldn't think Celtic will win the league this year. So why does every answer that we give to the media have to be some party political broadcast that stays on the fence? I mean, there's plenty of fucking pishy podcasts you can watch for fence sitting. Giakoumakis would be on the Boyce'S bus if he had a podcast because he gives you a straight answer. That's all we want, Jonathan. What do you think is going to happen with the league? Giakoumakis thinks Celtic will win it. I don't see the problem with him saying that.
No, I would agree with you. I think it's something that you would expect all of Celtic players to be thinking inside the dressing room. Well, he's just came out and said it. And, even if you're a Rangers fan, I'm sure you would expect the Rangers players to all be thinking, we're going to win this title. Why wouldn't you be expecting that? you know, if you've got serious aspirations of winning league championships, all sorts of that mentality. It's not a case to be like, oh, it might just not be our day, or oh, it'll all depend on game by game and everything like that. I think sometimes there has to be that belief there that, you know, you can push on, you can win this championship. I don't really think what he said was anything that was overly dramatic or anything like that. He's not came out and said, oh, we're going to slaughter Rangers or something, you know, mad, something like, you know, really talk-worthy, like what Souness said all those years ago with his men against boys comments or anything like that. All he said is, I play for Celtic and I think Celtic are going to win the championship based off performances, which, you know, I think is fair play to him. I think it's the sort of belief and mindset you would expect all of your players to have on that. And if that is what it takes to fire up our rivals as a wee throwaway comment like that, then they are in more trouble than I thought if that was something that was concerning them that much. Because if, you know, it was the other way around and it was somebody from their lot that was coming out with this, I wouldn't be caring. That's a spot on comment, David Kelly. Tavernier probably was away greeting to his mother, I would imagine, after seeing that. But, you know, that's what you want. It's inner belief. It's confidence is what it is. And I have absolutely no problem with that. I think, you know, some people might want to turn around and call it arrogance. But for me, saying you think your team's going to win the title is just showing a bit of self-belief there. And you need that bit of assuredness in these sort of moments. So, you know, and that's another fair point as well from Connor. You know, he's absolutely right. So I wouldn't hesitate in giving those answers out. No. And you know, we all love Chris Sutton as well. So I have no issue with it.
The thing is, you know, the reason guys like Sutton won golden boots in the English Premier League, won Premier League titles and came up here and was part of a huge turnaround under Martin O'Neill from a, what was it, 19 points behind the year before to winning it by 20 or whatever it was. I mean, the reason was because Sutton came up with that bit of swagger, that bit of presence about him, and he did have complete belief that he's probably looking around his dressing room the same way Giakoumakis is looking around his right now and going, aye, I think we will win the league. We've just spoke about it there. 56 points from 60 games. Yeah. What's he meant to say here? Oh, I don't know. Oh, maybe we will, maybe we won't. Oh, maybe it's raining outside. Maybe it's dry. Oh, shut your mouth and just tell me what you think, Gorgeous George. I love it, mate. And more of the same. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. And I kind of like the fact that Connor's saying there. It shows maybe a wee touch of arrogance. You have to have that in your teams as well, Jonathan. I don't understand. You can't. Celtic, if you've had a criticism, Jonathan, even during the quadruple treble years, you would have said they were a nice team. Not enough of them are nasty. Look at, you know, Dembele had that sort of arrogance about him and was revered for it, Jonathan. And that's what leads him, and that's what leads him to doing Panenkas and Glasgow derbies at Hampden, because he's got that inner belief. And if Giakoumakis is now beginning to get warmed up a wee bit here, scoring crucial hat-tricks, I can't think of him not having more of a right to say what he said today on current form that Celtic are showing, current form that your rivals are showing, and on the back of a hat-trick with a goal with 5 minutes to go. And he, in shock claim, thinks Celtic will win the league. Oh my God. I mean, people need to stop pissing their pants when people have an opinion these days, Jonathan. I just think the world's everyone's just so boring and bland. And it's just like, I want a bit of character from these guys, because we all know the cliche answers that are, you know, taught and encouraged to you by probably the media training that they get at the club and stuff. And that's across football now. You know, if you watch an EPL interview now, you've heard it all before. And they're scared. Everyone's scared to say something these days. I liked it from Giakoumakis. I thought it was refreshing. What did you make of his perfect hat-trick as well, Jonathan? And going forward, looking ahead, like I was saying with the likes of Hibs and Livy, he's going to be a crucial focal point for Celtic, not just in those matches, by the way, but like, you know, looking ahead to the rest of the season. I mean, right now, we don't know how long Kyogo's going to be out for. There are rumours that it's going to be the rest of the season. I don't subscribe to that, although I'm not in the know. I generally don't know. I think he will be back before that, because I think Andrew would have nipped it in the bud. But now we're looking at the Kyogo being missing, whilst we would always rather him in the team, right? We would always rather him in the team. Giakoumakis and Maeda's goal returns are actually extremely healthy, Jonathan, in Kyogo's absence. And I think in Giakoumakis, like I say, not only a cult hero, but I think someone that Andrew's growing in confidence with hanging his hat on.
Yeah, no, he definitely is, and even to touch upon his hat-trick, his first goal's a really good one. He's taken it on the swivel, on the volley, not the easiest of techniques. That he's done really well with that one. The second one, is just it's like a typical poacher's goal. He's in the right place at the right time when the keeper spilled it out from the cross that came in. And then for the third one, he's the one that's gambling. He's the one getting across the near post, getting himself into those positions, waiting on that ball from Ralston. Ralston probably knows the guy's going to be there because he's always making these sort of movements. I think a lot of the time he's not really got the rewards he's deserved in previous games in terms of goals. And it was really good to see him actually getting the spotlight he's probably deserved over the last few games, really, if you ask me, in terms of goal scoring, because I think that was the only thing really missing from his performances previous to the Dundee game. With him getting those goals, it's just obviously going to let him push on and get even more confidence now. And I think the fans are really buying into that, as well. And I would have said, in January, if you turned around and said, Kyle goes out for the rest of the season, I think most Celtic fans would have been shitting it, to be honest. I would have been shitting it if you'd said to me in January, you've got no Kyle for the rest of the season, you're going to have to put all your money on Giakoumakis stepping up. We would have all been a bit scared of that. Whereas now I'm quite relaxed about it, because, as you say, the goals are now being spread out amongst the team, and it's such an important thing that you are able to have a lot of different goal scorers that can do that for you. I remember always going back to Rodgers in his first season at Celtic. I think he came in, I think the season before, Griffiths had scored about 40 odd, and then the next player was on about 8. I think it was like Rodgers or somebody, or Forrest was on about 8 goals. That was the one behind him. And Brendan Rodgers quickly got that fixed to make sure that the goals were coming from all different areas of the team. And, in that team he had, not just Griffiths scoring, but Sinclair, Forrest, Dembele, etc. And you're beginning to do the same thing with Ange now, is that so many goals are being scored by so many different players that he's got those options available. And you kind of feel like, not even just with Giakoumakis, Maeda as well has been contributing. He's looking a lot more assured of himself, Maeda, than he was initially for me. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how he progresses. And there's just that confidence now with Celtic that, okay, we might not have our top goal scorer, but we've got enough in the tank there to put away most teams in Scotland, even without them.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. And James O'Kyle's touching on where you're coming from there, Jonathan, as well. 101 goals scored so far this season by Celtic. And James is absolutely right. Thank you for jumping on the bus as well, James. But I mean, he's spot on. They're coming from all sorts. It's not just up front. Whilst Kyogo maybe was the main man for scoring goals, it wasn't like he was such a lopsided sort of number in comparison with his teammates, like you were touching on there with Griffiths and that. The 2015-16 season, was it 14-15?
15-16, I think it was. I think it was the one just
the second year.
Yeah.
Aye, I mean that was over reliance on one man's goals. Whereas I think we're bringing them in, but we're scoring goals from all areas. But of course, it's important because for your strikers to be the main contributors of goals, because that's where their confidence is all based on. Really, it's brilliant to have said, "Oh, Giakoumakis tormented this team, tormented that team," but and I know that his confidence will be dictated by scoring goals. That's just how a striker operates, Jonathan. That's what makes them tick. And I kind of like the fact that we're now seeing someone go into this. I think cult hero status is where he's going to end up at Celtic. I really do. I think he's got that personality that I like. I think he's got the confidence he likes. He's got the swagger that we should be looking for in a Celtic player. And don't get me wrong, it's been wonderful to also see, to contrast that, other types of players like Kyogo being so humble when he's played at Celtic. But watch Kyogo actually on the pitch, Jonathan. Now, whilst it's great when you see him on the sidelines high-fiving all his teammates or trying to help us at Ralston's injury when he was giving him a wee leg rub, I mean, that's all well and good. But watch Kyogo on the park. Kyogo's got a bit of swagger as well, Jonathan, when he plays football.
Yeah, definitely.
And he's not afraid of the physical battle, and he can be a bit naughty and a bit cute as well. So it's been brilliant to see all these different sort of characters, personalities, and that's one of the things I feel are so important, Jonathan. And again, league title races. It's brilliant to see, the takers of this team and the free-flowing football that's clearly from the training ground. That'll get you so far. but you need to have the right combination of personalities in there as well. And one of those personality traits is going to be arrogance, belief, call it what you will. And I thought it was great to see Giacomakis showing that, not only with a perfect hat-trick, but with his comments post-match. We will move on from it, but I'm glad that he's proven. I'm glad that he has proven us to be right. And David Kelly, doing my job for me, mate. 151 are watching. There should be 151.
Hit the thumbs up buttons.
Yes, and if you haven't hit subscribe as well, please, if you haven't already. I was having a look at the analytics, Jonathan, earlier on. Believe it or not, still over 50% of our shows are watched by non-subscribers.
Wow.
That's frightening, eh? So, anyway, if you can, that would be brilliant. If you want to give us a share on any of your preferred social medias, that too. If you want to put a super chat, that's all good. If you want to buy a t-shirt in a week or so, I'm all for that even more. We'll need to do a new photo shoot though, won't we, since that last one went down so well with the wee man. The little fella got his fucking knickers in a twist about that last week as well. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Anyway, Jonathan, next on the talking points, and there was a bit of a downside, right? The reason we were so buzzing with a late 3-2 win is because we conceded 2 goals. The nature of the goals now, I don't like to do the Nostradamus stuff, Jonathan. Tends to be because I get the vast majority of my calls wrong. But when we get it right, I'm going to say I got it right. Look at that first goal by Dundee, Jonathan. How many times have I said in the last 3 weeks the ball keeps being allowed to bounce in the penalty area?
Yep.
From a set piece. I've said it a million times. That's a half volley, mate, that first goal for Dundee yesterday. He sweeps a half volley in straight from a corner kick. Yet again, a ball being allowed to bounce in the box. It's one of the rules. Don't let the ball, hit the ground.
You don't let it bounce in any situation, let alone from a corner.
And I think as well, how is it happening from a corner? I'm seeing it so many times. It's not like these are out-swinging corners that are drifting out the way. These are balls coming in towards our goal. They're in the area that is consumed by defenders here. Someone's need to take a wee bit of responsibility there, Jonathan. Now,
Correct.
Julian, I see, is getting wheeled out in the media again today for an 8-minute interview on YouTube, obviously talking about his return. I know you were watching it before you came on, and you can't help but feel if Celtic are doing that, there must be some sort of inner knowledge that he's going to be featuring once we can get him up to speed. Otherwise, it's all a bit of hype for nothing.
Just see him on the bench.
Yeah, it seems strange. But, I mean, you look at those 2 goals yesterday, you can't help but think. Now, I know there's this nonsense that play, and it does exist, it does, that players get better, in their absence, you know what I mean? And you start, making out they were better than what they ever were. I'm not convinced. I think Julian gets it tight at times. I think there's the most laziest narrative about Julian is he gets bullied off physical strikers. Happened at the Tony Macaroni Stadium against Lyndon Dykes twice. That's it. That's where that myth comes from. Right, he's played, I don't know how many games for Celtic, 70, 80, maybe 100, I don't know. I mean, it's a lazy narrative, that one. I don't think he's getting better in his absence, but I think when we're seeing those 2 goals getting conceded from set pieces yesterday, questions do need to be asked. And I don't think this has to turn into, again, and I hate caveating everyone with this, but I haven't to, say, I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just being honest. The 2 goals for set pieces is a situation that's not been good enough. We're continually signposting it when we feel it needs addressed. We've now got a £7 million, 29-year-old defender coming back to full fitness. With defending like that from set pieces yesterday, does that increase the argument for maybe trying to get Julian more integrated into the first team? And we know it's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah, I think, particularly with the fact the club have put out that interview today would suggest to me that they must be close to thinking he's ready to go and start a game now. And I think it would be welcome to see him back. And I certainly don't think the first goal happens if Julian is present. I think he would get rid of that. That just wouldn't happen for me if he's playing. I don't know what the defence is really doing from corners, but on that first goal, it's just, as you say, you should not be letting that ball bounce whatsoever. It's the basic rule 101 of defending a set piece, is you just don't let the ball bounce. I think it's an interesting one. I don't know if Julian's going to be the complete answer to this, because I do feel defending set pieces has been Celtic's Achilles heel for a number of years, and this goes way back to even Rodgers' time for me at the club. that Celtic are notoriously bad conceding at set pieces, notoriously bad at scoring from set pieces down the other end. One season of Lennon's first full season back, in a second spell where Julian was scoring all the time. But looking at them defensively, you do have to wonder: is there, Russell, potentially a look in here? And you've got to look at the whole coaching setup and think: is John Kennedy really the right guy who should be doing the coaching on corners? Because I'm presuming it must be him, since he's the ex centre back amongst the coaching staff. And would Ange actually now be better, do you think, actually bringing in one of his own staff who could potentially tighten this up? Because it's not just a single player. I wouldn't want to single out one defender for this. This seems to be a collective problem that the team has had for years. No matter who.
Goalkeeper as well.
Sorry?
Goalkeeper as well for that. And, I could see some comments coming in about that. I think Joe Hart was static at the goal. Now, again, we're not going to sit and, pan Joe Hart. He's been a wonderful signing for us, undoubtedly. I thought he was maybe a wee bit statuesque, static, whatever you want to call it. I think he was a bit frozen, Jonathan. No reaction either. However, I definitely think that the issue of the set pieces, whilst I get your point about it being one that's carried over from previous regimes, is something that needs to be addressed. Now, whether that's personnel or whether that's how we're setting up to defend these, I'm not entirely sure. But that goal from Dundee, we had forewarned on this podcast, and we do not know that much about, or claim to know, much about the actual playing, how to defend set piece that. But we're seeing it. Your eyes don't lie, Jonathan. That's the thing.
Yeah.
And you're watching it and you're going, if we keep allowing a ball to drop in the box or in the penalty area, by the penalty spot, then eventually we're going to start conceding goals from it. The goal against Dundee, I rolled my eyes and thought, we have called that was going to happen. It's no surprise. And if I can see it, the coaching staff must be able to see it. I'm surely seeing it a lot later than them, as it's not my profession.
Yeah.
They must be aware of this.
Which kind of goes back to the point that you've got those backroom staff members, particularly your likes of John Kennedy, who's been part of the setup now for a number of years. I don't know how long he's been there for. It feels like forever. And it's just something that never, for me, seems to have been picked up on at all. And it almost gets a free pass. I don't know why amongst the club, but it's just one of those ones where it just seems to be a case we just accepted we're crap at defending corners and we're not even going to bother trying to fix it. It's just like the only way we're going to fix this is score more goals and we concede from a corner. It's a very strange tactic we've got on this, if you ask me.
Fender Telly comes and says, too much fuss being made. We had a European hangover, for fuck's sake. Now, Fender, this is what the pod's all about, though. We do make a fuss about all the ins and outs. Otherwise, you wouldn't talk about anything. Come on, Fender, you're better than that, my boy. We're looking at something that we've discussed on the bus in the most recent of weeks as well, about balls dropping in the box. We then, on Sunday, conceded a goal with that very thing happening. Now, we're discussing it, and we're tying it in with a release that Celtic did today of an interview with Chris Julian, who plays in defence and tends to be pretty good, both defensively and offensively at set pieces. I hope that's not too much fuss, because I dare say we'd have nothing to talk about if we don't make a fuss about anything. And that's kind of the point of this whole thing.
The concerning thing is, the amount of fuss that would have been made over it if, Giakoumakis hadn't scored, with 5 minutes to go, the fuss would have been unbelievable. I'm sure, and the backlash would have been far greater than it's turned out to be. So it's one of those ones. I think it's right to point out. Obviously, we've done well. We've got the result anyway. But if you defend like that, at times you are going to end up dropping points. There's absolutely no doubt about it. You won't get away with that every week. You're playing a bit against a better team potentially in Dundee, or a bit stronger defensively. Then that could have ended up being a sticky one for us, and it would have been a lot of our own making with how poorly we've defended set pieces for a number of years. So I think it's worthwhile discussing, and certainly when you have got Julian back, it is questionable now whether or not it's the right time to put him in.
No, I mean, I think obviously that debate will heighten when we're conceding goals like we did on Sunday. And let's be honest, whilst we spoke earlier on in the show about being extremely relaxed, shall we say, and always feeling that we would go get the winner, imagine if we hadn't. Would be the conversation would have a far darker tone about defending set pieces and get Julian back in or get Welsh back in, whatever it may be, than what it is. So it's quite good to be able to do it on the back of a victory, because it means the conversation isn't like panic driven, and it's not, I'm not going to be like total rash in my views on it. I just think there is a concern there. As Bruce says, it's been addressed now by the club staff. Andrew's actually mentioned it. That is a concern.
That's
so that
very welcome. Very welcome.
And I think that is good. What I would say is they better not just noticed it now. They better just be addressing it publicly now. But anyway, the fact of the matter is, we got the result. Any concerns we've got, we can work on them. But it's better to be working on any issues you've got on the back of victories than it is back of defeats. That goes without saying, I suppose. Right. Finally, Jonathan, before we go, that's been an hour already, nearly 50 minutes.
Well done. Quick bus journey of the night.
I know, mate. I've actually started putting the foot down. Even Phil McGinley. I really called him Pat McGinley there. He played for Celtic and Hibs in the 90s.
Pat McGinley. He used to do the Celtic TV coverage, not Pat McGinley.
Did he?
Yeah, was that Tosh McGinley, maybe?
Tosh McGinley, yeah. It wasn't Pat McGinley, wasn't it? I was going to say, how did Pat McGinley get to that status? Pat... But Phil McGinley anyway, so Pat McGinley's got nothing to do with this.
Neither's Tosh either.
Neither's Tosh. Oh, we'll just talk about them. Famous Celtic left backs. Right, no. Phil McGinley was on. He'd said that they were absolutely flown by. In fact, I watched a wee bit of it back because his effort on the quiz was something else. We've got to say, Jonathan. I know.
Terrific. If anyone's not seen it, I would highly recommend tuning into it. You might even see the hosts get put through the races a little bit as well in it.
It was a struggle. It was a struggle. It was a good show. Phil did really well. He got a lot of love in the comments, which is all good. And hopefully that encourages more people to get in touch, like John Tomlinson, who's watching right now. He is on the Endless Celts podcast, and he's joining us in 2 weeks' time, I think. I've got Terry Robb this week, who's joining us. Again, it's all just viewers. It's the best way to be, because it's all about fan media. We'll put the fan bit in. The rest of you can kid on. You are the media. That's all right. I don't mean the rest of them. I like a lot of the stuff, to be fair. But anyway, Jonathan, what I was going to say was the hour had flown in on Friday, and it has again tonight. So well done, Jonathan. You're actually you're doing better than I thought you were, mate, at these shows.
A+ for effort.
10 points for participation, mate. Now, Bodo Glimt is our next fixture on Thursday. Whilst not impossible task, the odds are stacked against us. Obviously, we're 3-1 down.
Well, that was some accent you were putting on there.
Was that?
Go to that again, there. That was like some sort of English accent. You just went in. Oh, I don't know what you were up to there.
I don't know. I'm just reading it out, mate, animatedly. Can Celtic provide another twist, though, Jonathan, in this fascinating campaign?
Well, it would be quite the story if they were to go over to Norway now after that and turn this one around. Blues Classic pitch, where we're in the middle of the Arctic Circle, we're travelling to as well. Having said that, Celtic do like to make a few different stories and prove a few people wrong, and certainly has been doing that a lot this season. Could you write Celtic completely out? I don't think you can. I think if Celtic were to get the first goal, the Norwegians might flap a little bit. You put the question to them, you just never know. You've got to remember, away goals don't count on Thursday, just like they didn't count last week.
Yeah.
So it's not as insurmountable a task as it could have been if that rule hadn't been scrapped. I mean, nobody's expecting Celtic to go there and probably get through anyway, I don't think. Not many will be anyway. So it's almost like a free hit in Norway. It's an opportunity there where if you go out, fair enough, the damage was done in the first leg, most people will say. But if you end up turning it around, it'll be actually one of the most memorable probably European comebacks we've had in recent years. Particularly for to get this monkey off our back of finally winning a European knockout game. This was it 2004, was it last time we won one, I think, against, was it Barcelona knockout rounds? Thompson, I think it might be going back as far as that.
Yeah, 18 years it was, because we then got put out by Villarreal.
Thompson scored the volley and David Marshall had the game of his life in the return leg when knocked out Barcelona. That's going all the way back to Martin O'Neill's era then, since the last time Celtic have actually
scary.
Yeah, managed that feat. And I think a lot of us were expecting that to have came to an end when we seen Bodo Glimt was the team we've got. But make no mistake about it, they're actually a tidier team than I think we expected as well. They're a good team, Bodo Glimt. And, if they were if they were playing in Scotland, they'd be up there challenging in a title race as well. I think we have to respect that about them. But I think if Celtic score first, the gloves are off. Just much like the boxing the other night, the gloves will be off, and you just never know what could happen. I think it's maybe just a bridge too far, but Russell, Celtic have done it before. Could they do it again?
I don't know. I mean, I've went from thinking they were miles ahead, and I think maybe time, it softens the blow a bit, Jonathan. You get the high of yesterday when we went 3 points clear, and suddenly Bodo Glimt I can't even remember them being that amazing now, Jonathan. Everything changes when you win a football match. I mean, that's just the beauty of being a football fan, I think. But what I would say is Celtic have been writing their own scripts this season. Celtic, as we were saying, there's a bit of belief, there's a bit of swag, there's a bit of magic in the air right now with this Postecoglou side, and I definitely don't think it's beyond them. Now, I've been thinking about this over the weekend because I had a really good debate on Friday about where we rank the importance of this. Because it's Europeans' third tier, is it as important as even if we went out the League Cup, I think people would be flapping more than what we seem to be after losing on Thursday. If we became, is it apathy towards Europe? Will we now rest for the second leg? I'm now beginning to think Ange will go as strong as he can for the
Thursday.
He will.
100%. I don't think there's any doubt about it. Ange plays to win, so I don't think he'll be taking any time off or giving any of his players a break. I think you can be rest assured the strongest 11 that he thinks can get the job done will absolutely be playing on Thursday night. So I don't see them doing any rest in there whatsoever.
No, I couldn't agree. I couldn't agree anymore. Because I think that when we go there with a strong side, if people talk about getting an early goal, we might get an early goal. And as you say, ask a question of them, because we didn't really ask many questions of this side on Thursday. I thought they reminded me of us at times. That coming out of the traps early. It reminded me of our group stage in the Europa League, how we approached the Betis game, for example. I was like, fucking hell, they've came out the traps very similar way. They've got the early goal. I just thought they were very disciplined as well. They managed their high pace, high tempo, very good football as well, with a real physicality, good discipline, and obviously more composure maybe than what I would have expected from them. And they went right to the end as well. I thought they might have shown a wee bit more fatigue than they did, which is a bit of a concern. But who knows, Jonathan? And I just think that Ange isn't going to be taking any fixture in Europe lightly, because at the end of the day, that is where you make your name. And that is where Celtic are, synonymous in their history is in European competition, and would have been one of the driving factors in attracting, whether it had been Ange Postecoglou or any other manager. So then when you're in Europe, you don't just start, we're 2 goals behind, we'll make wholesale changes. I can't see that. So I am looking forward to what will be an interesting night. Hopefully, I mean, the one thing we know, Jonathan, as well, is we can't play as badly, can we?
No, and I think, when it comes to this game, if we're going to go down, we'll go down fighting. We'll be definitely trying to throw a few more punches than I think we did at Celtic Park last week. Maybe we were a bit complacent in terms of the fact that we were expecting to win that game, and, the fact we had almost a sellout crowd at Celtic Park under the lights. We had a reasonable campaign in the Europa League. In fairness, I know we finished third, but 9 points can sometimes get you out of your group. And it wasn't the easiest group to have been in, particularly with the wholesale changes that happened with the club earlier in the season. So I think sometimes you have to take a wee step back and realise that this has been a bit of a transitional season in terms of the personnel that came in. But I think with the fact that Celtic have been doing so well so far this season, it obviously raised the optimism about the performances, and it made people naturally think that we were going to be able to take Bodo Glimt at Celtic Park. I suspect the players will feel quite hungry and have a wee point to prove, because I think they'll feel they had a lot more to offer than they actually did at Celtic Park, and they've got that itch on the back they'll want to scratch, and at least give themselves a fighting chance. I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if Celtic win on Thursday, even if it's not enough to get through. I think they actually could very well do that.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think there will be a point to prove. Not just from the players, but I think the management as well. I think, you know, there's maybe a couple things Ange probably is kicking himself with in terms of what happened on Thursday and the whole performance, maybe personnel you look at and reflect. And I think he'll definitely have a wee point to prove. I think the players definitely will. They've shown that they like to react to adversity now in a positive manner. Why not have a go on Thursday, Jonathan? And yes, I know we've got league duties on Sunday, but these guys should be able to play 2 games a week. The squad has the depth now as well to be able to do that. Listen, a big thanks to everyone who's jumped on the Boyce's bus today. If you haven't already, do hit subscribe. The channel is growing faster than, well, anyone expected, really, let's be honest. Whatever part of the world that you are watching, thank you for tuning in. I can see our Norwegian friend was in as well at one point. I think he's a Bodo supporter, so that was class that you're still watching.
I wonder if it was the one I started following on Twitter. I made a few Norwegian friends in the pub last week, so maybe it's one of them.
Yeah, you never know.
Maybe it's one of them. I wouldn't recognise them anyway.
The demon drink, Jonathan, the demon drink. I will see you all later. I'll be back this week. We'll do some Championship Manager, I think, on Wednesday for a laugh. And then we will... Fan cam's going to be a pain. So I'm only going to be able to do the second half of the fan cam live for the Bodo one. And if we're getting humped, then I'll just not bother. We'll do post-match pish, of course. If you want to come on post-match pish, let me know. And we'll get that sorted as well. Big shout out to everyone in the comments, everyone who's been on the Boyce's bus. Thanks for the support as always. I'll be back Wednesday to play a 20-year-old computer game, Jonathan. Back Thursday to do some post-match pish. And then we're on at the weekend. I can't remember if it's Friday or Saturday with Terry Robb for Don't Back Down Double Down quiz. See you later. Thanks again, Jonathan.
Yeah, see ya.
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now, and you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan.